Thank you for joining us today. This is our webinar, Interactive Email, Why You Need It and How to Incorporate It into Your Emails. And we have a special guest today doing our presentation. We have Jeff from ActivePath with us. Jeff is the CEO at ActivePath. His company has been around for about 5 years and offers some really cool tools to help email marketers boost engagement. So today, Jeff is going to take us through some of the things that you can do that you can include in your emails to make it more interesting and easier for your recipients to engage. I am going to hand this over to Jeff in just a minute. But first, just a couple things. First of all, this will probably be about 45 minutes, the presentation. At the end, there will be time for Q&A. So if you do have questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and we will be happy to answer those questions at the end of the webinar. Now, we do get the same questions every time we do a webinar, and one of the questions we get every time is this being recorded? And the answer is yes. I am recording this for you all to view later. So in order to see this, you just need to go to our website next week. If you go to verticalresponse.com and click on the Resources tab, you'll see all our recorded webinars there. And this one will be up there by next week. So with that, I'm going to hand the controls over to Jeff. And he is going to take you through, whoops, wrong button, take you through the presentation. Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jill. And just to confirm, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for allowing us the ability to talk with your audience. We're really excited about the topic. Interactive mail is something that many people in the industry have been talking about and then kind of really pursuing. And we're excited to show you some live examples today about how you can use it to incorporate it in your email programs, how easy it is to get started, and what some of the results have been to date with some of our clients. And I'm really pleased to say that this relationship with Vertical Response actually started because they are using this at the end of webinars like these to send people that example of that webinar inside the email. And I've got a live example I'll show you of that as well. So really appreciate the time. Just a quick background, the company's been around for a couple of years. I joined them less than a year ago. My background is I grew up in Los Angeles and still a diehard football fan. So when somebody can help us get a football team back there again, we'll be excited. Our company is actually based out of the Middle East and New York, and I split my time between those two locations. So let's talk about interactive mail. I'm going to start with why email is still king, but it's really ripe for innovation. I'm sure all of you on the call have made big career bets around the email space, and yet have to listen to all your friends tell you how Facebook's going to take over the world and we're going to have, nobody's going to use email. But I think we all believe that that's not true, and I've got some data to support that. And then I want to specifically focus on video and email. People have talked about this for a long time as well, and as kind of one example of interactive mail, we're going to focus on how video is today being used inside email in many different ways and what people's results have been with that. And then we're going to use that to bridge into how to make video work within email in an interactive way. And in that way, I will be able to show you the example that I mentioned earlier about VRbuzz, the vertical response newsletter, and how they have successfully incorporated video inside their email campaigns. And then finally, we'll broaden it out and talk about a couple of other use cases, not just video, so that you could take advantage of interactive email within your own campaigns. And we'll close off with Q&A. All right, so let's start with why is email still the king? Probably most of you are familiar with the amount of money that's being spent. I'm sure all of you, with the exception of your service provider Vertical Response, do spend a little bit of time and money in this area. Forrester actually has published a report that says it's as high as $2 billion per year just in the United States. And we have a global perspective for our business, and I've seen numbers that are as high as $27 billion worldwide spent just in email. And what I always find interesting with these numbers is they really don't take into account the full range of how email is equivalent to other media sources because you don't pay for the media. For the most part, unlike banners or display, where you actually have to pay for that, with email, it's kind of seen as free, and so these costs are just around creative and paying for your service delivery. When people were asked whether or not they would like to see dynamic content, over 50% of them said, yes, we want to do not just regular email campaigns, but ways to make that campaign much more dynamic. And all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the challenges that as more and more of the spam filters become more sophisticated, it becomes harder and harder to get attention inside the inbox. And so having the opportunity to do video, having the opportunity to do something interactive is the best way to create interest and then ultimately engagement among your user base. And then that kind of leads directly to everybody would like to see the ability to get that engagement as seeing either higher open rates or higher click-through rates. And fully 40% of people when surveyed said absolutely that's a number one priority for them. So we know email is still the king, but what do the results suggest? Well, so for, again, those who have to talk to the friends that are talking about how cool Facebook is, or even how Google continues to be a big part of their marketing budget, the data, and this is specifically from ExactTarget on a report they published at the beginning of this year, the data suggests that it's actually 2-to-1 in terms of conversion rate of email against search, and over 4-to-1 against social campaigns. And again, this makes sense. Email is highly targeted, it's highly personalized, it's generally to people that have already opted in to hear your messages, and when used properly, can really boost your overall results very easily. So again, anybody who thinks email is dead, we can point out these figures and suggest to them that they're definitely wrong. But it has been, for the most part, the same email that we've been working with for the last 10 to 15 years. As I talk to people and I ask them where they've put the dollars in technology, almost all of it, until recently, has been on solving one problem, and that is, how do I get my email delivered? How do I ensure it passes those spam filters, it gets into the inbox? And fully 80% of the budget and the time spent from the large ISPs like Gmail or Yahoo Mail or Hotmail are designed to prevent email from coming in the inbox. So we as marketers, email marketers, have to fight with the fact that almost 4 out of every $5 are going in to prevent the email from coming in. I think now we're moving into an arena where now people are saying, okay, now let me focus on how do I get that email to be read and engaged with. And so you're hearing a lot more in the news about innovation, new startups, funding going against interactive email, video inside email, surveys, etc. And I think it's a really exciting time to be part of the email space because it is ripe for innovation. Users are much more amenable to trying new things, and senders are clearly having the pressure to come up with new ideas to differentiate their campaigns and boost results. And one of the ways that most people talk about is, how do I get video to work inside email? Let's first kind of run through some quick statistics on how video is really taking a huge part of what's happening around overall internet traffic. In the United States, 86% of the audience has viewed online video, and this was over a year ago. We know that number is even higher now. When you ask ComScore kind of what that year-over-year growth is, it's over 25% and has only increased in the last 12 months as well. And most people predict that within 2 years, video will account for more than 50% of all internet traffic. And obviously with the boost in mobile as well, people continue to want to seek out rich media as a way to connect with senders and the ways they connect with brands that they want to work with. So you've got video consumption, so the eyeball side of things is definitely growing very quickly. And the other side is growing quickly as well, that the proverbial gap that we have between where people spend their time and where the advertisers are continues to shrink on this side, where video advertising is set to grow very rapidly. According to eMarketer, it's going to grow by 22% in 2012. And according to Forrester, over 50% of marketers expect to increase their use of online video. And it's not just video overall, though. It's specifically video inside email. Gartner published recent reports that said you can get almost 3 times the response rate and higher returns over direct mail when you use video inside your email. And Marketing Box reported that out of 5,000 people who watched the video, they saw the whole entire video, average video length of 2 minutes, versus the normal session inside an email that's 8 seconds. And I know another statistic here that I didn't put on the slide that I think occurred on the Yahoo side when they started testing the ability to do video inside email, they saw double the engagement rate in terms of people watching video and the same type of response where people would see that video to completion. And it makes sense. Once you're in your email and you kind of want to process the information in the context that you're getting it, the ability to watch that email, that video right there will lead people to spend more time on that engaged content. Why is video so effective? Well, a couple of things. First is that people feel much more confident when they make an online purchase, when they can kind of learn more about the product or service through a video. You can communicate a lot more with a single picture, and obviously moving images allows you to also give emotion. And the ability for people to actually be connected to your business will lead directly to higher sales. And there's been a lot of data that supports this. Video is extremely effective when it comes to search engine optimization, and it's very effective in terms of getting people to engage with your brand or service. And the results support this as well. According to Forrester, click-through rates in email will increase by as much as 2 to 3 times. And it's not just the novelty. It's that once people engage with the content, they're much more eager to be able to interact with that and then take the action you want them to take. Another study showed that 21% higher conversion and 24% higher order value when you compared a video image versus a static image. And again, we've got some examples we'll show you, but it's really exciting, right? You take something that people expect to be able to interact with. This image should move, and instead it's static. So there's almost a letdown of how it should have worked. And yet when you enable that, users become much more engaged and much more appreciative of the message. And in fact, people say just even putting the word video alone inside the subject line can double your click-through rate, your CTR. So we're seeing lots and lots of support that video inside email definitely works. In fact, for those who haven't seen, this is a great infographic that summarizes a lot of the great data. And I just excerpted here a couple of key points, but the folks at Wistia came up with this. And one of the main things is that over 60% of small businesses that they contacted suggested that they were going to increase the amount of video emails that they were going to do this next 12 months. What types of things are people doing video around? Primarily around explaining their product, training courses, and then product demos. I'll share a client story that we have. We have an online university that has been, for the most part, sending information about their CD products, about their online courses through email. Then the users get links, and then they have to go and register, sign in, and then when they get through all those steps, they're able to eventually watch the content. And what they've decided to do is actually put all their content inside that initial email. So a user opens up their email, and they can immediately start taking their course. So it brings the user much closer to the action that was intended and allows them to obviously boost the engagement that they have with their audience. Other ideas are product demonstrations or promotions, and then customer testimonials. Now, if we think about how video inside email started, this might become familiar to people who've been around for a couple of years. There was the animated GIF. And for those who are able to see this through WebEx, there's about 4 or 5 images that just cycle through. There's no sound. There's no ability to kind of customize that. It's not really moving. It's just, a series of images, not too dissimilar for how movies might have looked, about 80 years ago. Then people said, okay, great. What do I just do is I'll embed the link. Now, that allows me to hear sound and everything once the user takes an action and clicks out of their email, and then we're assuming here that that video link was actually able to pass through the spam filters and was able to be shown to the user. But wouldn't video and email, as it's designed to work, look more like this? Where as soon as, and I'll just let you hear this for a second. So the video plays directly inside the email, and it was really the way it was always intended to work. The user hears the sound, they see the image, and it's directly in the context. Someone sent me a note, I'd love to be able to see this video, and immediately I can either set it to be starting to play, or the user can set that they can play it. You can have the sound on or off. And that obviously engages them much more clearly than if they had to click through a set of GIFs. So that brings us to the example that I indicated earlier, which is let's see how that actually works inside email. So we sat down with the folks at Vertical Response, and they talked about how they like to promote their webinar. And because all of you guys know that these are great experiences to learn, the best way to experience this type of product is if people can experience it directly. So when they send an email to promote a webinar, why not give them the experience directly inside email? So we worked with them, and it was a very quick campaign to allow them to immediately play, expand, and take other actions inside the email. And obviously what that gave them is the ability to build engagement with their user base in the context of the newsletter. So let me show you now a live example of how that works, and you can see what I'm getting at. This is the VRbuzz that hopefully all of you get on a weekly basis, and hopefully all of you read. And I'll give my plug here for it. But, you know, typical newsletter, it's got very good links up on the top, a lot of cool information. And as you scroll down, you'll see that there's actually here an ability to see, you know, an image here of a webinar. Now, normally in a static mail, the way you would see that is you've got something that you've got to hit to play, and users are generally worried about, well, if I click this, am I going to leave the context that I'm in? But because Vertical Response has worked with ActiveMail, what you can see happening right here is this is now playing, and I'll turn the sound back on so you can hear. I think I have muted it here. There you go. And there's the key folks from Vertical Response explaining about how to get the inside scoop on Google Analytics. And all the capabilities that are normally there in terms of controlling that experience, you can continue to do inside the email. And of course, you're still in the context of the newsletter. So I don't have to click out of that to see that piece of content, and I can get back to what I might want to do around the rest of the content. And what's nice about this is if those people who don't have the add-on, they would see it the same way they do today as a static image that as they click on that, they would leave. But as ActiveMail and their product is turned on, they'd be able to see that directly inside the email, and it can even begin to play when someone opens up their email. And I'll show you a couple other examples as we go through. But what we found is by putting video directly inside the email, as we said, you don't just boost engagement, but you really give people context and allow them to interact much more with your content and get a better experience. As you take that and expand upon that, you can put actions associated with that video. So let's say at the end of the video, you want someone to sign up for a webinar, or you want them to take a survey, or you want them to be able to sign up for something else on your site. The same way that you do that today, where you can actually bring someone to your website and have them go through your funnel, you can do that directly through the application inside email. The way our technology works is all the capabilities that you would do on a website, we allow you to do within your email. And the benefit then for the user is they don't have to leave their context to take the action. So let's think of a couple other examples. Maybe you've got an application that you want to promote by having people play a game, or your website itself is an application. For example, it's a search functionality, search for travel information, search for commerce, it could be a product SKU. All that can be done inside the email and allow people to take that action immediately. If you've got social capabilities where you want people to like or share or tweet, post comments, you can do that directly inside the email, and that gives people now more choices than just if I want to reply or delete to the email that you send. You can complete surveys, and obviously if you can do it on a website, like a one-click transaction, you can do that inside the email as well. So I'll give you a couple of static examples of this, and then I'll talk about, and I'll give you some live ones. So Miniclip is a series of, it's a gaming site, and what we designed with them is that you can actually see their static mail. Inside the email, though, you can start playing that game. This could be a game directly that they have, or it could be a promotion from a partner. You can take action from that in terms of sharing that with friends. The example here is, let's say, Facebook, where you can post comments directly that will go onto their Facebook page or write a review. And then finally, you can actually do a search for their other related games. So think about today when you send an email and you have to make a decision on the image that you put in your newsletter. And you say, hopefully people like that. But if they don't, their only option is to click out or ignore it. Whereas within an active email, you've got the ability to give them choices that they can scroll, and they can see other choices that they themselves can take advantage of. Let me give you a static example from Amazon. This is a proof of concept here, but imagine getting an email from Amazon where all the different buttons and kind of notions of what you do on their website would be live inside the email. So you can update your preferences. You can click and do a rating directly that would be linked to your account. You can have your one-click checkout available inside the email. So if you like something, you can immediately purchase it. And as I mentioned in the other example, the ability to discover new things, in this case, scrolling through galleries of favorite products, can all be enabled inside your email. Now, people say, that's impossible. How does that work? Today, my email doesn't allow me to. And that's when I tell you, well, they don't have active mail. So now let me show you some live examples, and you can see what I'm talking about. The first I want to point out, the way our product works, is we actually start from your inbox list, where you as a sender can differentiate your brand by having your logo appear inside the list of messages that the users look at. And the way we do that is we actually authenticate both the content and you as the sender, and then reflect that authentication using a logo. So for anybody who's got secure content, a lot of the background of our company has been in financial services, this is actually an anti-phishing feature that allows people to see that this is definitely you who's sending it and nobody else. And that gives your end users confidence, but it's also a great way to differentiate your brand experience so they see that directly inside their email. Let's look through a couple of examples. We started with the notion of video, so let's kind of stay with those for now, and I'm going to show you a couple other examples of video and then broaden it out. So Angie's List, as you guys know, sends out a lot of email. They do a lot of advertising. And most of what they do in email is to get people to either join their paid list or to kind of see more of their offers. Well, here she's giving a personal pitch directly to join her list. And as you noticed, this was playing directly inside the email. And all the controls that you have that you normally would have in terms of full screen and muting, etc., the user completely controls that from within their email. Again, to compare what that would look like, normally images would be turned off. You'd click on this button, you'd click out. But with Active Mail turned on, they can watch the video right there. This is also kind of being used, we can show you an example from Daily Candy for those who get their newsletter. Here's an example of a video that they were playing, directly inside their email. And it's promoting how to massage your dog. Can't exactly say that that's been my favorite, but apparently in this world there's 94 people who do like that and 68 who tweet it. The benefit of this email, at least, is if you're one of those 94, you can like and tweet directly from within the email as well. Now let's kind of get a little more sophisticated. I told you before that one of the advantages of having the ability to actually see video is you can also give people choice. Well, imagine if you had the ability to show your videos on a carousel, so a user can click and choose to watch one of those videos directly from within your email after they've scrolled through. You've now given people a lot more choices than just the static images that you normally send to them. And we can kind of use another example of that. Oops, sorry, that was the same one. Imagine getting a daily dose of video, in this case from AOL, where we combined all those capabilities to give the user full controls. That means all their menus kind of move. They've got all the same drop-down lists that they would have. You can log in, see trending topics, and all that can be done directly inside the email, such that when people click on that, they're able to play that video as long as they're in the right geography. We'll see if that comes up here. So imagine having that capability inside your email to give people all the different choices that they can browse and engage. It's the same experience you would see within the website, but we've brought that website now inside the email where the user's already spending 2 to 2.5 hours a day of their time, and you're bringing them that experience. And here again is this example from AOL where all the different capabilities of their video player have now been enabled. And people ask, well, is this HTML5? Is this that? The way our product works is actually any video format that you have can work. If it plays on your website, we can enable it. Now let's broaden it out. We talked about video and we talked about ways to make it engaging. What are some of the other things that we can do? Well, here's a generic set of examples to just spark your thinking. Imagine us doing a survey where you just wanted someone to quickly give you feedback inside the email that you send them. Imagine your ability to do something like this, where you can get comments, type in, and directly input that information. Perhaps you've got information that is real-time in nature, flight information, sellouts, coupons, daily deals. Here I'm just showing you an example of information that's directly being updated as this email is open. I talked about games inside email. You'd be able to do the same thing if you have a gaming or any kind of application where you've got the ability to have a user directly do activities, and probably I should let my kids do this type of thing. So you can do that directly inside the email, and obviously any kind of APIs where you're doing kind of interactive information, in this case a map, can all be done inside the email. So let's put this to work in a real kind of application. Let's say you had search functionality, in this case like Travelzoo, where you want people to take a specific action when you send them the email. So instead of somebody clicking on a static image, leaving their email, and then eventually figuring out do they have the right route, here Travelzoo knew my previous search was LA to New York. It has my dates of travel. I can change them if I want. And with one button here inside my email, I'm starting the same search experience normally I would have to do outside of email. For the sender, all their monetization options have now been brought forward as well. So they're getting their paid clicks here. They're giving the user all the interactivity that they would normally have on the website, and all this is live. So the user is able to interact with all that content directly. And the benefit is obviously at this point, the user is seeing the same information they normally have to take a couple of clicks for, and they will more likely take an action. So people say, is this all brand new content? And the answer is no. This is actually their website. We're just framing it inside email. So your CMS, all your different business processes by which you keep your website updated don't have to change at all because we're incorporating that inside the email for you. Now I'll just show you one other example, and you can kind of get a sense of kind of how this works. But we had a client that had, it was kind of a sweepstakes concept. And probably like many of you, when you send out a typical image-based email, Gmail at least will keep those images turned off. So this is the experience your users have, and I imagine in less than 2 seconds, they're not going to respond. But with an ActiveMail, this is what they see. Images are automatically turned on. The form here is live, so as I type things, all that can be filled in. And the one button here, which is the submit, I've actually got the conversion here from the moment I turned on the email to my click to action here is very, very short, which leads to very high results. In this particular campaign, we saw results as high as 6 times versus their static campaign of conversion. Not 6%, 6 times the response rate. So let's come back and talk a little about those results and what you can expect from having dynamic content and an interactive email. I'll first start with some industry data. Experian did a report where they generically talked about dynamic content, which includes video inside email, and they talked to at least a doubling, both in terms of the revenue per email generated. They had shown it as 29 cents per email versus 15 cents, and obviously the transaction rate of 0.4% versus 0.2%. Obviously, it really depends on your campaign and what product you have and kind of what the value is, but there's very few initiatives I think you can do in this year that will give you a 2x return like you can do with interactive email. And just to share our own data, we've seen higher open rates to the tune of 30% higher, and that's a lot to do because we put your logo right there inside the inbox, and conversion rates that can be as high as 3 times that of static mail. So it's exciting, it's differentiating, and the best thing is we know that it works. So at this point, I'm sure you're asking, well, how do I get started? So the way we work is we sit down with our clients, and a lot of our information is on our website, activepath.com, but we would determine with you which interactive experience do you want to test. Do you want to do a video? Do you want to do a survey? The main criteria here is either how creative you are, what resources you have, or what already exists on your website. If you don't have yet video content, our suggestion would probably be to take something that already exists on your website. If you have access to video, even if it's just your YouTube channel, we can easily help you create a campaign to bring that video forward. We then work with you to develop a promotion. The way this technology works is the end users have to do a one-time download in order to enable it, and that's independent of the sender. So as every campaign that we run, we build our distribution base. Then we have one line of code that we attach to the static mail, and think of that almost like a pixel that you would have on a display campaign, where our clients, our add-ons, then can read that pixel, and they know to transform the static mail to active. And then the main thing is we measure it, and then we repeat it and optimize it with you. The setup here is very, very easy. The pricing here is very, very reasonable. And we're really at an early stage in our own cycle. So we're very eager for use cases and people that want to work with us to explore the world of interactive email and help bring some of these examples so we can show the world really what potential there is around interactive email. I'll just kind of summarize some of the benefits of moving from static email to active email. I talked a little bit about kind of how in today's world it's all about plain text and typically images are blocked, whereas with an active mail, rich media and images are by default turned on. Instead of the content being fixed when it's sent and there's nothing else that you can do, here it's always fresh and up to date. If you have a live feed or any information on your site that might change, by framing that inside the email, the user, as soon as they open the email, are effectively getting a live browser session. So it's always going to be fresh and up to date. Today, emails for the most part with commercial senders, one way. You send it and hope they take an action. Whereas with ActiveMail, it can be immediately engaging and interactive. If you have a chat functionality on your website, imagine if there's a service request type email and you can put a chat capability directly inside the email. Think about how many fewer phone calls you'd get if you can move people to chat inside email. And I talked earlier about kind of we're very, very focused on security. Today, when somebody gets an email that might not be from you, they could be deceived. Whereas with us, we can ensure that it's both the content and the email itself is highly secure, and we can authenticate that content for the end user. And the main thing is today, a user has to leave to do the thing you want them to do. Whereas with us, all the action is in the email. And the results are clear. Instead of a low engagement rate, you can see over 3 times the conversion rate, which should lead to higher sales and better customer support and service. I'm going to wrap up here with just a quick background about our company so you can learn more about us. As Jill said, we were founded a little over 5 years ago. We had primarily been focused in the financial services space, where we've rolled out solutions that provide two-way banking for several large banks. And what I noticed when I joined the company is that this is fantastic technology, but let's broaden who gets to use it. So we've retooled our product to not just serve financial institutions, but we now serve a range of different clients, and even end users download our product in order to interact with 25 very popular content types. If you like getting YouTube or Vimeo videos and have them play directly inside your email, if you get SlideShare or Flickr, or if you just want to get your Facebook or Twitter directly inside your email, we enable all those experiences, and you can do that directly when you download ActiveMail through ActivePath.com. I talked about kind of our user base. We have over 1 million active users now, and that's growing at a very nice rate. And our company is actually a venture-backed company and led by Battery Ventures out of Boston. So at this point, I just want to conclude and thank again the folks at Vertical Response for allowing us to talk about interactive email. We're extremely excited about where this whole market is moving to, and we'd love to be able to partner with people on the call to see if we can help you create an interactive campaign. We'd be happy to make the slides available, and we'd be happy to talk to you after the call. And the easiest way to get in touch with me would be Jeff@ActivePath.com.